Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something quite profound. We're looking at the sources of Jiddu Krishnamurti, or just K.
Yeah, Kay, a fascinating figure. His ideas, they really shake things up, don't they? Especially around self-help and, the whole spiritual path idea.
Exactly. So our mission today is to try and pull out from his teachings this mechanism he proposed for, well, deep psychological change, a total transformation, really.
And right off the bat, you hit this paradox with K-Time magazine, called him one of the 20th century's five saints. Think about that.
Wow.
But his core message, the most radical part, he rejected all spiritual authority, all psychological authority, even, crucially, his own.
It's almost unbelievable. He actively dismantled the organizations people built for him.
He did. He basically said, look, there's no path, no guru, no system to follow. It's all on you. Complete individual responsibility.
Which is frankly terrifying for most people, I think. So we're diving deep into how he thought we could achieve this massive internal shift without a guide, without a method.
And it all begins with looking inwards, doesn't it? Kay really pushes you with these fundamental questions. Who are you? And what do you actually want from life?
Simple questions, but incredibly hard to answer, honestly.
Very. And his central point is that all our problems, the conflict, the fear, the struggle, it comes from trying to protect this thing we call the self. The very thing we think is trying to get free is actually the source of the cage.
Okay, so let's unpack that. The self, the me, the ego.
Yeah.
If that's the problem, what exactly is it, according to Kay?
He described it as an accumulation, like a big bundle. It's all your memories, your intentions, your past experiences, the conclusions you've drawn.
And the unconscious stuff, too.
Absolutely. The background noise,
Yeah.
racial heritage, group identity, your personal history. It's the constant drive to be something, to become something, to achieve some kind of permanence.
You mentioned he used strong language. He called the self an evil thing. That sounds jarring.
It does, but we need to understand the context. He wasn't talking moral evil, like good versus bad. He meant functionally destructive.
Functionally. How so?
Because the self, by its very nature, is dividing and self-enclosing. Its whole operation is based on separation. Me and not me. My group and your group. My belief, your belief.
And that separation inevitably creates
Conflict, exactly. Yeah. Loneliness, fear, war. Even when the self is chasing supposedly good things like virtue or finding peace, the division is inherent in its structure.
Okay, this next part is where my brain starts to bend a little. The relationship Kay describes between thought and the thinker. We usually think the me is solid and thoughts just come and go.
Right, that's the common sense view. But Kay flips it completely.
How?
He says there's no permanent thinker behind the thoughts. There's just thought, which is always moving, always transient, fleeting.
So where does the me come from?
Thought itself creates the thinker. It sees its own impermanence, its fleeting nature, and it gets scared, essentially. So it invents this idea of a permanent me, the thinker, to feel stable, to feel continuous.
Wow. Okay, so the thinker is like an illusion created by transient thoughts trying to anchor themselves?
Precisely. If there are no thoughts, even for an instant, Kay says, there is no thinker. There are two sides of the same coin, both fundamentally transient, impermanent.
So the me I feel is real is a construct of thought. And thought itself, Kay argues, is basically just conditioning.
Exactly. Thought is the response of memory. It's the past operating in the present. Your conditioning, Hindu, Christian, scientist, communist, whatever, it's just stored information reacting mechanically.
So the mind gets stuck in these patterns.
Yeah, tethered to the past, to dogma, to belief. But life, as Kay points out, is constant movement, constant change. So you have this static mind trying to deal with the dynamic reality.
Bam, boom. Conflict. Struggle.
Perpetual struggle, that's the result.
Now, obviously, we need thought for practical things. Driving, working, talking.
Of course. Functional thought is necessary. Getting to the office, building a bridge, speaking a language. Kay never denied that.
But, and this is the huge claim, he says, thought cannot solve our deep psychological problems. It can't end sorrow. Why not?
Because thought, he argues, is born out of time and consciousness. And consciousness, as he defines it, is the field where sorrow, fear, and conflict exist. They are its content.
So using thought to end sorrow is like?
Like trying to clean a dirty window using a muddy rag. Or, his analogy, trying to fix a reflection by polishing the mirror. Thought operates within the problem. It can't get outside of it. It can analyze sorrow, describe it, maybe rearrange it, but it can't end it because it's part of the same structure.
That directly challenges so much of modern psychology, doesn't it? using thinking to reframe thinking.
It absolutely does. Kay would say that analysis keeps you trapped in the known, the past. Freedom lies in stepping out of that field altogether.
Okay, so if we can't think our way out, what's the alternative? What's the mechanism for actual change? Kay talks about self-knowledge.
Yes, self-knowledge is key, but not as an end goal, not something you get and then you're done. It's a constant living process.
And how do we discover it? Not by thinking about ourselves in isolation.
No, definitely not. Not by withdrawing to a cave or just reading books. You discover the self in action, in relationship, how you react to your boss, your partner, the news, society. Relationship acts like a mirror.
It shows you your conditioning, your reactions, the me in operation.
Exactly. It demands awareness right there in the moment of interaction.
And this kind of awareness requires, he says, a different quality of mind. Which brings us to his distinction between intellect and intelligence. Can you break that down?
Yeah, this is crucial. Intellect, for Kay, is basically thought working on its own, separate from deep feeling. It loves explanations, theories. It can be highly trained, very clever, very cunning.
Good at justifying things.
Excellent at justifying the self's actions, finding sophisticated ways to escape or manage conflict without actually resolving it.
And intelligence.
Intelligence is different. It's an inherent capacity. It's the ability to feel and reason intensely and harmoniously together. It's a total sensitivity. And Kay insists that this intelligence is actually damaged or crippled by relying solely on analysis and comparison.
Crippled by analysis. That's so counter to everything we're taught about problem solving. If we don't analyze, how does understanding, real insight, actually happen?
It comes, Kay says, when the mind is quiet, not forced quiet, but naturally still. Understanding arrives like a flash, an insight, when the whole process of thinking, analyzing, verbalizing just stops, even for a second.
The brain is highly aware, but silent.
Intensely aware, but silent. That's the state where insight happens.
Can you practice that? Is there a technique to get that stillness? We love techniques.
Yes, we do. But Kay was adamant. You cannot cultivate or practice this stillness. Trying to force the mind to be still through concentration or discipline just creates resistance, a kind of rigidity, a dead mind, he called it.
So it's not an achievement.
No. It happens spontaneously when the mind is simply aware, watching its own movement without judging, without demanding anything, just total choiceless awareness.
Okay. But most of the time, we're not in that state. We're stuck in the self, feeling pain, loneliness, confusion, anxiety. What do we typically do then?
We escape. Kay was very clear about our escape mechanisms, the obvious ones. Drugs, alcohol, entertainment, sex, just keeping incredibly busy.
Distractions.
Constant distractions. But he also included more subtle things, what he called religious amusement.
Like what? Rituals. Reading scriptures.
Yes, or even listening to talks, like this one perhaps, if the intention is just to feel better temporarily, to be stimulated rather than to actually understand the self. Any stimulus, he argued, ultimately makes the mind dull and dependent. It helps us forget our smallness or our emptiness for a while.
Wow. So even learning could be an escape if it's not leading to direct self-awareness right now.
That's the sharp edge of it, yes. It's about the why behind the what.
Let's zoom out a bit. If this self is the root of individual problems,
Okay.
how does changing it connect to, the mess in the world? Wars, division, all of it.
Through one of Kay's most powerful statements, what you are, the world is.
I mean, society isn't some separate thing out there.
Exactly. Society is just us, multiplied. It's the projection of our collective relationships. Our confusion, our ambition, our greed, our fear, all writ large. So, he argued, if even one person fundamentally changes inwardly,
It has to affect the whole.
it creates a ripple. Goodness is contagious, he said. Real change isn't about imposing new systems from the outside. It starts with transforming the individual consciousness that creates the systems.
So political reform, economic changes,
Yeah.
they won't fix violence if the inner source remains. What did Kay see as those deep internal roots of conflict?
He pointed to a few things. One, our inherited animal instincts, territoriality, aggression. Two, our social conditioning, the constant drive for competition, ambition, success, being better than.
But the main driver.
The biggest cause, he insisted, is our psychological demand for inward security. We desperately crave certainty, permanence in our relationships, in our possessions, in our beliefs, our ideology.
And that security doesn't actually exist psychologically.
It's non-existent. It's an illusion. And when that illusion is threatened, when someone challenges our beliefs or our status or our relationship feels insecure, we react, often violently, to protect that psychological territory. The search itself guarantees conflict.
That connects directly to his views on ambition, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're raised to be ambitious, to strive. Kay saw it very differently.
He saw ambition as rooted in fear. The worm of fear, he called it, the deep-seated terror of being insignificant, of being a nobody. So we compare, we compete, we strive to be somebody.
Which breeds envy and conflict.
Constantly. His alternative wasn't laziness, but finding your true vocation, meaning doing something you genuinely love to do for its own sake.
Not for the recognition or the success.
No. When you love the action itself, the love is its own reward. There's no room for fear, for ambition in the competitive sense. Education, he felt, should help young people discover that love, that vocation, and grow without fear.
What about happiness? That's the big pursuit in modern life, isn't it? The pursuit of happiness.
Another paradox, according to Kay. You cannot pursue happiness or joy the moment you become conscious of being happy, the moment the me, the observer, the experiencer steps in and says, I am happy. It's already fading. It's become a memory.
So when does it happen?
Joy, he suggested, is a state that arises when the self, the me, is absent. Often it comes unexpectedly in moments when conflict ceases, when the mind is still. Even briefly, it's a byproduct, not a goal.
Okay, so if we stop chasing happiness, stop being ambitious in that fearful way, stop trying to improve the self, what leads to freedom from sorrow? You mentioned self-ending. What does that mean practically?
This is where Kay radically departs from gradual, step-by-step improvement. He argued that any effort to become better tomorrow, any self-improvement project, is still happening within the field of consciousness, within the structure of the self.
So it's just rearranging the furniture in the prison cell.
Exactly. You might become a better prisoner, a more refined self, but you're still operating within the boundaries that create sorrow in the first place. Progress in sorrow is still sorrow.
So transformation isn't gradual, it's immediate.
It has to be immediate. Freedom requires cessation and ending, what he called self-ending. Not physical suicide, obviously, but the psychological ending of the self's continuity.
How? Through dying to everything from day to day.
Yes. Dying psychologically to the accumulations of yesterday, the memories, the hurts, the pleasures, the perditions, the conclusions, the prejudices. Seeing each moment afresh, without the screen of the past, this requires total attention right now.
Which brings us back to attention and his form of meditation. It's not sitting cross-legged and chanting.
Definitely not rituals or concentration in the sense of forcing the mind or excluding things. Kay's meditation is constant watchfulness, total attention to the whole movement of the mind, conscious and unconscious.
Watching thoughts, feelings, reactions.
Everything. Watching your anger flare up, watching your fear, your ambition, your pleasure, watching it all without condemning, without judging, without wanting it to be different, just observing the what is.
The simple, silent, choiceless awareness of the fact.
Precisely. When that quality of attention is there, the self's activity, the judging, the comparing, the escaping naturally quietens down. That silence, that stillness isn't forced, it arrives. And in that clarity, the self, the accumulator of sorrow, isn't there. That's freedom.
It's a profoundly challenging perspective. So let's try to quickly recap the core takeaways for you, the listener. First, the self, this psychological me, isn't solid. It's a bundle of transient thoughts and memories, and it's the root of our conflict.
Second, real transformation isn't gradual self-improvement. It's an immediate cessation of the self's activity, which happens through intense, non-judgmental awareness, especially discovered in the mirror of relationship.
And third, seeking psychological security in partners, beliefs, status, anything is ultimately futile and actually breeds violence, because that kind of security doesn't exist inwardly.
So the real task isn't some grand search for life's purpose out there. It's understanding the confusion and misery we're caught in right now, every day. And freedom begins the moment that self-centered activity pauses, which demands this total attention to what is.
Which leaves us with a final, quite radical thought from Kay, challenging our deepest fear, death, non-existence. If we can psychologically die to the past moment by moment, maybe life and death aren't these terrifying opposites we imagine.
He put it starkly. Life is the unknown, as death is the unknown, as truth is the unknown. If you can truly meet life this very moment as the complete unknown, free from the known past, how does that shift your relationship with the future, with death, with the whole desperate need for continuity?
That's the question Kay leaves us with, something profound to explore.